Hi everyone, it's John The Moldman show again, and I'm back fighting mold one spore at a time.
Such a dork.
That is a superhero comment.
I'm going to get you a
Damn
cape
right.
and everything.
Go in with a cape and I'm like
Man,
whacking away at mold spores. Woo-hoo.
I don't think so.
The Moldman's here. So,
Once again, we want to remind everyone, if you have questions, we want to hear from you so that we can straighten everybody out about the truth about mold, where it comes from, how it affects you, how it doesn't affect you. We're going to leave links up so that you can communicate with us and just list your questions, and so that we can answer them in a few podcasts.
we'll do that on the website. We'll put some more links up there so they can contact us directly, ask questions. And there is no stupid question.
Nope.
Just stupid ones. No, there are no stupid questions.
What a dork.
And the reason why I'm saying that is because the information is so piss poor out there. The state does a really bad job at trying to get information out to people. It's very contradicting. It's very difficult to maneuver through the websites.
It's very backward and forward.
Very backwards and forward. So we're very familiar with the CDC websites and the EPA website, OSHA, all the Department of Real Estate information, because that's really important, because that's a lot of the arguments that happen, and why we become almost pros at beating off lawsuits quickly.
Yeah.
Because what they talk about is stuff that isn't even real. It's not actual code. It's nothing. It's made up stuff. And we'll get into that in the next episodes. Today we're going to be talking about air mold sampling and why it's never been approved by the EPA, despite what people think. They think there are levels. And I always say to individuals, look, if we had levels for mold spores, it would be on our phone. Okay, number one. Number two, it would be a machine like in our house, a carbon monoxide machine that would detect mold and then sound off, because of course you can't see mold spores either. You can see carbon monoxide, and we know that level because the machine goes off, right? Wakes you up so you don't die. Well, that's not mold. And therefore, we would know those levels. So the companies that come out make up these levels with their own form of calculation. The lab collaborates with them on this ridiculousness, and that's how they come up with their goofy little levels for mold spores.
We're going to take that apart so that you know exactly what they're telling you and what they're lying about.
Yep, and we're going to be right back after this break. Hi everyone, we're back. This most exciting moment that we're going to be talking about, mold levels.
Contain yourselves.
It's a big topic. People seem to want to believe that mold levels actually exist.
They don't.
And they don't. The EPA has never approved mold sampling. Not even the new ERMI sampling that was done by the EPA. That was basically a dust collection process, which I still have to research more of because there's very short articles on it. And the EPA has never even used that as a form of mold sampling for levels, because it still wasn't what it was designed. They were trying to do a certain way, and for the research purposes, it was approved. The research purposes. But for the outcome of levels, no, that's not what they even came up with, and it's not even a function of that type of test. So it's been misrepresented many times in disclaimers for mold samplers who come out to your home, and then they go, oh, even the ERMI is blah, blah, blah. They put this in the disclosures to make it seem like everything they did was the right thing. But then when you read those disclosures, it states there are no levels for mold spores. It's a work in process. And then they use the words industry accepted standards. Those are the industry. The people who created the certifications are private. The IICRC is a private company. The ACAC is a private company. The state does not require any remediation company to go to those schools in order to function in the state.
And the state has no schools either. So the state does not register, they do not certify, and they do not govern.
Good point.
any remediation companies, none of them.
Right.
So the industry standard word, that gets on my nerves a lot because it's really something made up. You can go to anybody's website and see them say, we have the industry standards. Well, there's no one place for the mold remediation companies to go to become certified. There's no one syllabus. All of these certification courses are just from that particular remediation company.
Anybody could have made it up. And they were carpet cleaners for the IICR. They even say that on their website.
There is a company, the IICRC, I forget it's basically they're carpet cleaners.
Right.
Carpet and upholstery.
And they got great PR reps, and they created this stigma that they were the number one because nobody did it. And it was easier for them to get that out. So that's the standard that pretty much everybody goes off of because that's the only one that's publicized. The EPA doesn't have standards because mold is not toxic. So they say just use your common sense. If you're going to do something in a house, if you're going to remove mold or drywall or anything in a house, and the person is allergic or has immune disorders, you got to take extra precaution, of course, and still put up the containments, which is what I do. And I tell people this. I go, just because I say it's not toxic doesn't mean I don't take it seriously. And the particular customer has their own issues. It could be immune, it could be an allergy, and we're going to be talking about allergies in the next podcast because these go hand in hand. So when somebody comes in and says they can sample your air and then they come up with reasons to believe what the remediation would be for that, then you go into their disclosures and it says, do not use these levels for any remediation purposes.
And they're not going to point them out to you because they want you to pay for the mold sampling, which usually is about, on the low side, $500 to $700. I was checking that out.
$500 to $700 on the low side. A lot of times, like
there's add-ons.
There's tons of add. Oh, we got to check your duct system. That's another fraud.
Would you like to supersize your fries? Yeah, it's kind of like that.
That's it. Yeah. Would you like a combo?
Would you like to supersize?
Would you like the combo supersize? Yeah. I would like everything to screw me over, please, and make me grab my money out of my son's college fund to save the family because black mold is going to choke me and rape me in the middle of the night and my children. It's like,
everyone's going to die.
Where do you get these stories from, people? One said to me they lost an organ. I think I talked about that before. People want it to be deadly. Well, I'm sorry, it's not. It comes from nature. And you can argue with me all day long. Unless your body has an inability to stop the allergen from coming in, then you're going to have a problem. If you are normal and you have a healthy immune system, it's just like we fight off cancer every day, but people don't think about that. We breathe in carbon monoxide every day. People don't think about that. We breathe in all sorts of other allergens and makeup molecules. And
the world is a yucky place. Let's just put it that way.
It's awful.
That's the PG version, okay? It's yucky out there. Human beings are pretty grotesque.
Right.
All right? It's just gross.
When somebody wants to believe and they have conned their family into these illnesses that you can't be found, doctors can't find the blood work to support the so-called symptoms that they're having. They want everyone to believe that they are sick, and they will discredit the doctor. And of course, they go to a wellness professional who feeds into this, gets him on a urine sample because that's where the mold comes out of. Of course, but they're acting like the mold doesn't come out, but it came out in your urine.
It's already out of your body. It's in a cup that somebody's sampling. It's not in your body anymore.
No, it circulates.
Don't worry about it.
You're always rebreathing in the mold, and then you're always eating mold, so you can't detox from mold. It's not going to happen.
Let's go back centuries when they didn't have electricity and even solid structures to stay in. You were breathing all of this in all the time.
Yeah.
People still evolved and we're still here.
Their homes didn't have insulation. They weren't up to code like we are, right? They were
farmers
rocks
and farm workers are not dying every day.
clay.
They'd be keeled over and dying.
Farmers would be
Mold was a
dying.
problem.
Gardeners would be dying. All these people would be dying being around mold. And Stachybotrys, by the way, is in your dirt. So it's on your shoes, you walk in your house, whatever. Your kids run outside, they run back inside, now they got it on their feet. Bugs can bring it in. That was a crazy little story I was reading. I was like, shit, yeah, the bugs can bring it in, you know? They walk through the garden and then come into your house, and those little remnants, they can detect it. If they're scientifically trying to find Stachybotrys around your home, it's going to be mostly on the floors and things. So it may be floating in the air, and it can. That's how it disperses as well. And just like every other mold, we're breathing it in. If you eat wheat in the morning or anything that grew out of the ground, you're going to have Stachybotrys in it.
You're not going to die. Please don't pay the kid who comes in and says, we need to test your air to see how much mold goes in here. It's terrible. It could be bad. No.
Right.
It's just a scam. They have no number to compare that to. So if they say you have 50 million of this spore,
that's a microscopic number that's lower than 1, by the way.
And where's the limit?
Yeah.
If they haven't set the limit, there isn't a limit.
And you could probably pull out 20 of their tests from the last week, and every single one that's going to say high had a different amount of mold spores that they found. So how is this high? So they came up with this calculation because science hasn't been able to come up with levels for mold spores. So they came up with their own calculation, which is an inside and an outside sample. Okay, first understand the reason why they're going outside is because that's where the mold spores come from. Your house has no breeze, so the mold spores float in, and they hang in the air because they're microscopic. Microscopic means it's so light, it has a huge hang time, all right? Viruses, we found out, had like a 3 to 6 hour hang time. Mold spores are probably pretty close to that. So they're going to always be in your air, and you're always going to breathe them. Having said that, they go outside, they do a test, they come back in, they do a test there. No breeze inside, completely different environment. So no scientific research study would ever support that calculation because of the differences from the outside environment to the inside environment. And they even say this in the disclaimer that if there's a big breeze, if it's very windy, if it's raining, if it's humid, if it's hot, if it's cold, these things can influence mold spore retention in the cell. Of course, because it's blown away from the machine. So you can wave your hand and a microscopic molecule is going to go over a mile. People don't get this because it's not in front of your face. So the information that the state has left out greatly and has done a piss poor job at trying to communicate to the people, we're trying to pull all that together so that you understand mold better, and that's why we're putting this awareness. So
it's kind of like when you were a kid, you tried to catch a shooting star. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it for a reason. It's impossible to catch a shooting star.
Right. So when we come back, and we got a little bit here, we're going to almost have to take a break, but we're going to come back and we're going to start talking about how this machine, which was made up by the industry, not the state, the industry, and how they came up with this formula and why did they do this and what is it really used for. So we're going to get you educated on that sale tool, which is a sales tool. It's not a healthy tool, it's a sales tool. And we're going to explain to you how the discrepancies happen in mold sampling. And that's what we're going to get back to you on the next break. Woo. All right, we're back. Fighting mold one spore at a time. Isn't that right, Judy?
Yeah, that's not going to get any cooler. It doesn't matter how many times you say it. It's still not going to get cool.
So we're going to talk about when I was just starting out and I was doing the mold sampling and I had to do something for the for the military base, and we were tearing out barracks. We were working with a contractor. We were working with one of the gentlemen he said he was from the Army Corps of Engineers. He was one of those scientist guys. Well, we were almost done. We had 4 different locations with containments up. And he said one of the ladies at the front is arguing that we have to do these mold samples. And he said, this is so bullshit. And I said, yeah, I've been doing it. So it doesn't really make sense to me because, whatever. And he goes, I'm going to explain it to you. So we go inside, we go into tent number 1. That's containment. I like to call it a tent. And he says, don't move, set the machine, label each of these collector cells 1 through 4, because it was 4 rooms. And he said, I don't want you to move. I want you to do the same amount of time, same amount of volume. He knew how to work these machines. And he said, just stay right there, and I guarantee you they're all going to come out different. Sure enough, they all came out like we were in a different room each and every time. And then he explained how the microscopic mold spore is floating through your air all day long, okay? And when that machine is turned on, and I actually demonstrated this on Instagram, where I did a smoke-filled room, turned on that machine, and nothing was going in the machine, except what was very close, like even closer than I thought. And that's a nano percentage of your airspace. Nano. So if they come to you and they go, oh, we found all these spores, that was a cluster. Any cluster can have any amount of mold spores in it. And it just happened to float past the opening of the machine, sucked right inside that little tiny, and it's actually smaller than a pencil-sized hole. It's really small. So how are you supposed to do that in a 100-square-foot room and capture the entire airspace? You don't. So they came up with this inside-outside calculation. They had to. And a lot of times they claim, oh, the outside is always going to be lower than the inside. Well, of course, because it has a breeze. It depends on which way you pointed the machine. Did you point it into the breeze? Did you point it away from the breeze?
Did you sneeze?
Did you sneeze? Did you walk in front of it? Did you raise your hand? Did a car go by? It's like you can't, there's too many variables that will change the level of mold spores in your environment. And it's, again, it says that in their disclaimers. And I'm going to start reading these things on my Instagram, and we may make a whole episode. We just decided. I plan
to have you do that.
That's here, a meeting we just had.
So that we can do that.
We're going to have that. We're going to read
Decisions made.
Yeah. So the levels are not established. There never have been. So what the question is that I normally ask if I'm doing a deposition or I'm being paid to be a professional witness or responding in paperwork documents, where did you get these levels? And nobody, they just go, oh, it's the accepted industry standards. Well, that's a bunch of retards. I'm sorry. So what are you going to do? Where did you get this number from? Is there a number? No, they don't even have a number. It changes on every single test for each person. The last disclaimer I read, love these guys because this is now the second or third time we came across them. And they even said the environment changes so much that the sensitivity of these tests can be easily altered by wind, rain, hot, cold, blah, blah, blah.
Dog farts.
Dog farts. Yeah. You name
literally, seriously, think about it.
Anything can change that count. So you have to understand that each environment would have to be the same in each room or outside in order to make those calculations probably even reasonable. And I came up with an idea where you can seal up the entire room, maybe clean the air, do a pre-test to see how many mold spores are there first, then what, because it's just random. It's not even going to be scientific, but it would make more sense if you tried to turn that room into a clean room after 48 hours maybe of purifying the air, not allowing anything to enter, and then turn everything off, never enter the room, have the machine ready on its own switch, turn that on, and then see if the room is actually creating mold spores.
I went to sleep about 5 seconds ago, really, because that's a little much.
And that's a little much.
Lot.
That's going to go on for almost a week to even do that. Okay? So that's why the mold sampling is a con. It's actually a sales tool to scare you into a higher cost. Like I always say, if it's $2,500, they're trying to get it to $25,000. So you're going to dig into your pocket and you're going to rip out walls you didn't need to rip out. You're going to fog your air, which does absolutely nothing. And by the time he's done folding your check, fogged your air with a Halloween fogger and some, what's that, dry ice. Mm-hmm. He's walking around your house looking like he's doing something.
He's not doing a
and he's folded up that check, got in the car, and your new mold spores just returned. Mm-hmm. So how does that stop anything? And then when you read that warranty or guarantee they give to you, those guarantees are only good if there's no moisture or a leak anywhere. which
Well,
means
there's always moisture in the air. So how does that work?
correct. And if
Just
the
a
mold
minute.
spores grow from a leak, that's not our fault.
Really, one moment, please.
Okay, well,
while I
that's
think
the only way it's going to
one
work.
moment.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? How easy it is to screw people over with a quick comment to scare them. These people are not scientists. They are not graduates from a college for
They
science.
may not even be high school graduates, for Christ's sake.
For most part, yeah. And you know what? I'm not ripping on people who didn't finish high school or whatever.
Nope.
But when you turn it into a scam business, that's my problem. And that person is not following the state. They even put this in their literature that they are following the EPA and OSHA and all that. And if they were, they wouldn't be doing mold sampling because it's very clear. Not even licensed states. There's only like 6 of them. They had to step in to stop these connies from going into disaster victims' home.
Blah, 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 blah.
Disaster
again.
victims. That's mold toxicity. Right?
You're going to die.
I'm toxic. What was I saying?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
I try hard not to listen to you most of the
I know. My sister doesn't
59 years of listening to this blowhard over here.
Right. So the EPA
It's a
and the
lot.
CDC know you can't sample the air, and it says that right there on the website. Oh, and those states that do have licensing do not allow mold sampling. Period.
Because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You just take out the mold. It's not like there's a certain type of chemical process for each mold spore in there.
Nope.
How am I supposed to do that when you got mold everywhere? Now I'm going to, that's a stench. Yeah, and you only can add hydrogen peroxide to that. This is what they want you to believe. But they all get removed the same way. Soap and water can kill mold off of a stud of, you open up the walls. And the reason why we're opening up the walls is because the water's inside the wall. The drywall's wet. The insulation's wet. The area is going to stay wet. And a tree is your studs. Okay? You take a tree, you cut it into a stud, and that's your wall.
Mm-hmm.
Got it? And then your drywall is made of gypsum, which is another natural product. They all have mold spores inside, and they have mold spores floating and landing on them all day long. So even if you replace the drywall, the new mold spores will return and are in the product. It's the water we have to control. That's why we have to rip open the walls, take out the wet insulation, because if we don't, and that wood stays wet, the mold spores will continue to eat it. It decomposes it to nature. That's what the mold spores are doing.
That's its job.
That's its job, to bring plants back to nature and dirt. It's not to kill people. So no one can argue the fact when I say to them, it comes from nature, from the outside. You eat it and you breathe it in all day long. How are you going to get detoxed from it? It's impossible.
It is already in your bloodstream. Don't worry about your children. When you were pregnant, they were exposed to it because you're exposed to it. Your husband has been exposed to it.
And go back to the first podcast we did, and you'll hear me talking about Stachybotrys and how that story was so overdone and continues today, where children were dying, coming home from the hospital. They found a completely different reason, but the story lives on. For the rumor that it's caused by black mold and it's going to make your baby's lungs bleed. And that is the most cruelest thing you could do, especially to people today who are specialized in their field. Like a long time ago, we went to college and we learned a lot of shit. We learned sociology, we learned nutrition, we learned math, we learned science, we learned all these things. You go to a specialty school today for computers and you're learning computers. That's it. And our brains are focused on what we know, what makes us money, and everything else is found out on your phone. The problem is people don't even check that. They just believe the lie. And when you have a cell phone that you can easily access good information quickly and you don't research it yourself, that's where you failed your own self, because you just listen to someone. Here's the other kicker. Those disclaimers have to be given to the customer under the California Law of Consumer Advocate Act before you take their money.
And it never happens.
It never happens. It's always given after, right?
They walk in, they scare.
Mm-hmm.
They scare you probably a little bit more. Come up with a money amount. How much is going to cost you to no longer be scared and terrified in your own home. And they're never going to tell you about the disclaimer. You're going to supposedly read that yourself.
Yeah, and it even says that these
it's not going to
levels
happen.
are up to the customer to determine if it's healthy or unhealthy. Now, how's the customer going to
If it's up to the customer, what the hell are you doing here?
Right. Why don't they just put their finger in the air and, go with the breeze? I mean, it's
Let me
ridiculous.
make it really simple. If you try to catch air, how much air did you just catch? How much air did I just catch in my hand?
That's a good way. That's a good one.
Nothing. There's nothing in my hand, right?
And you can't even determine.
If you did it again, did you get more air or less air? Nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Mold spores are everywhere. Your body is killing them off the
His
second
little
you breathe them
tester
in.
is no different than you doing this and trying to catch air.
And identifying the type of mold doesn't matter. It was already there probably weeks before. But we're going to get in more into this.
It's been everywhere forever. Been everywhere forever.
Yeah.
Ever and ever.
Ever since the world has been created, and we can argue over the age, but we can't
We're not
argue
gonna
over
do
the
that
fact
anymore.
that it was there with
Ew.
the beginning of the earth.
Yep.
Okay, we'll be back. And we are back on the subject that some of the cable news companies would not take from my submission because it was telling the truth. And they wanted everyone to be afraid, like your home and garden type shows.
Because if it bleeds, it leads.
If it bleeds, it leads. And they want you to be terrified, and it causes the drama.
Terrified.
But if they knew what they were talking about, they can make endless amounts of shows on this by telling the truth. And that's the cool part. And that's what we're here to do. So we're over here talking about mold sampling and what is it really used for. It's a sales tool to get a simple job increased to an extreme amount of money.
And if you haven't been able to tell, we hate the mold sampling community.
Me too.
Hate them.
It's so retarded.
They
It's
are
so bad.
ripping you off badly, and we hate that.
Yeah, and they can't even explain their own issues. They can't explain it. Like you go to and you say, where did you get the level? Our industry. Why are these levels bad? I don't know. It's the calculation from inside out. And they try to make that. They'll even put in the PCR sample system. And the PCR is nothing more than a scientific lab process. It's not a diagnosis. It's a scientific research tool. They were told about this many years. Even the CDC actually admitted it was supposed to change the machinery during the COVID thing, but they never did because it couldn't tell the difference between COVID and it couldn't tell the difference between influenza. So they just called it COVID. But that's why they wanted to stay with the PCR, because you can manipulate numbers. You just keep turning that thing until you find what you want. It's done off of revolutions. I don't know. I'm not the scientist, but listening to him, he explained it as to why it's not a diagnosis tool, because you could pretty much find anything you want with the PCR test to study something in science. So if you needed a certain molecule, you spin it around and you find that molecule, and then you test it for whatever it is you're trying to come up with for a science study. That's the whole purpose to it. So when they explain this in the disclosures, they're trying to do this whole scientific sounding way, which is so confusing that most people aren't even going to read it. And that gives them a little validity of how scientific this is supposed to be. When you read that, or you go to the links, I love this one. You go to the links that they give you for New York licensing division of remediation, or
There isn't
the
one.
CDC, or the EPA, or all these links that you would think would be legit. You click on them and they go nowhere. They never go to the exact page. It'll be at the front of the website where those people are like, well, I'm not going to search. They don't even like searching government websites. So Black Mold had only 100 views on the CDC website many years ago. I started handling this out. The links to the CDC and the story of Black Mold. It was only 100 views. You go to a private website, and guess what? You're going to have millions of views. And those private websites are saying anything they want. That's the freedom of speech. They can say it.
They
It's
can
like
say
a religion.
anything. They can post anything. It's not based in any truth or science, for that
No.
matter.
No. And they just make a statement. They go, oh, unfortunately, it's very toxic and can make you sick. And they say this at the end of the statement. And it's like, well, what is that? What doctor came up with this? What science study came up with it? So if you don't see a PhD scientist name associated with this statement, or the website, or the article, and a link going to medical research showing that the statement they just made in the article was accurate, do not read that article, because it's anything. And how do you know they're telling you the truth?
That's the hard part. When you start doing your internet searches, what's going to come up first is who paid the most money to be at the top of the Google list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not anybody who's any better or smarter or true or not true. It's all, I'm like a 5-year-old playing with my wire.
She's getting in her Dom session here and she's whipping it around.
Yeah, not a secret. It's not who's better, who's worse, who's proven to be true and scientific. It's who paid to get at the top of the list.
Top.
And you're normally not going to go past 2 or 3, maybe even just to that first page. Because if you look down on the bottom, there's like 4 million pages to go through.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you're going to go further in the search
Right.
to pick somebody else. You're going to get Joe Blow remediation number 1.
Right. And that's because he paid the most for a link click on a keyword like mold or mold testing.
That makes him richer and better at business, not smarter.
So the big
Not
companies, like, okay, they're nationwide. They got a bigger budget. So they can bid you, because it's a bidding process. You start at maybe 25 cents for that word. And then you could set this is the scummy part of the whole Google thing. You could set an automatic overbid for the next person who just bidded on that name. So this happens in nanoseconds too, as well, because it just goes until somebody gets the right number. And then they're at the top of the page. That's why you see those people there. They paid for it. They didn't get algorithms because of how great of a company they were, or tested on Yelp to see if they have great star.
They don't have a
reviews.
doctorate in
Nothing.
it. They never went to school for it.
Right.
They are not licensed physicians.
Correct. It's
They're
just a pay space.
usremediation.com.
Mm-hmm. So if you're a small guy trying to get the word out, it's going to be very difficult for you to do that, because even if you go on AI and you ask a question about mold, they're pulling it from mostly those private websites.
It's all going to come from a couple of different sites, and you're going to be reading and you're going to say, well, wait a minute, that kind of contradicted that, but this is AI. Isn't that smarter?
Right.
Fuck no.
No. AI is just
not
pulling
smarter.
random shit from the internet, from different articles, probably from those people who paid for it. And that's where they're getting that information. So it's very inaccurate. So the only way you can go to AI and go something about mold spores or testing is to say, what are the EPA regulations for mold sampling? Now you're going to get an article from the EPA, a legit one. Whereas if you just go, what are the realities of mold sampling? And they're going to give you whatever even the IICRC maybe put out there, or the ACAC.
Because they have a lot of money.
Because
They can
got
put a
of money.
lot of information on the
their
internet.
nation. And they have great PR reps. I'm going to say this 100%, because they have been able to be the number one for a private made up certification. Everyone that I go to for a bid on estimates thinks they're from the state. They think they're scientists,
Carpet cleaners.
and they're just carpet cleaners, or they're just contractors, because scientists don't lift heavy equipment. We have to lift heavy equipment, put up containment, rip out walls, bring that trash out,
And remember,
clean everything. It's
not
like-
every mold situation is a mold rip out issue.
Mhm.
A lot of the time people are calling us, we see mold.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're seeing mold because there's a lot of humidity.
in the
and
bathroom.
They're settling.
Right.
They're almost always in the bathroom.
And these other
sometimes the kitchen
Yeah.
cabinets, and that's
and,
it.
and so people go, so what do you do if you don't clean topical mold off the wall? Well, I don't rip off families. That's number one. That's what I say to them. I'm not going to rip you off, because it's just mold in your shower and your bathroom. So you got to keep your bathroom clean. Once you explain this to them, they go, oh, if they're tenants, they don't want to hear that at
Tenants
all.
never want to hear it.
Yeah, because they think that they're bathroom mold is the responsibility of the landlord. Well, I got news for you. That pamphlet they gave to you when you signed the lease, it's called the Department of Real Estate Handbook for Tenants and Landlords. You're supposed to be reading that. And a lot of the information we give to people about tenant and landlord responsibilities are in that book, but nobody wants to read it. So we're going to start doing a formulation where it's going to be put right out there for a simple process of where you can look for landlord-tenant responsibilities. Having said that, if it's topical, like in your wall, like in your bathroom, and you can wipe it off your wall, it's on the paint level, that's topical mold. That is a pure selling process for these companies, the industry, to come in and try to tell you that you have a mold infestation problem.
Yes, they're going to
and we have to rip out your walls.
Fuck out over it.
And your shower.
My babies, they're breathing this.
Yeah.
They're okay. They're not dead. They've been breathing it in utero, guys.
Right. And they've been crawling on the ground and they put their fingers in their mouth. Guess what? Stachybotrys went in their mouth and other things. Okay. Everything from Orange County on your floor, that baby put in his mouth.
If you're not worried about the baby playing with the cat or the dog.
Right. Then don't worry.
Don't worry about the damn mold.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. So we have a complete disconnect on what reality is for the selling tool of mold sampling, and how the industry is not as legit as you think, because they're going to convince you to rip out your shower for some mold on your tile. And they do this. I have one I'm going to be posting in a house. This guy really kind of screwed himself. The second you call a mold sampler and you say, I'm afraid that there may be mold in my house because there was a leak 40 years ago. And he goes, oh, well, you better not go in there.
Oh, my, we should do some sampling.
Yeah. So I went into this house. It's called moisture mapping, and they also manipulate too. And then I'll show you that. We're looking for the moisture. That's the funny part. So then they go, oh, your shower has to be torn out. So they put blue tape on it and they X it like it's got to be torn out. Okay, why the shower? The shower's not leaking, right? And then the floors. Then you got to rip out your floors, and then you got to rip out the other wall. So I went into this house. He was looking, just to rebuild his shower alone was going to be over $15,000. Just the shower. The remediation is not included in that. So you got a process of remediation, then drying fees, then mold sampling, and asbestos testing. We'll get into that too. That's another scam.
Buy a new house.
Yeah. Why would you?
I mean that sincerely. Buy a new house.
Right.
At that point, that's
ridiculous. By the time they're done, that was a down payment when we were younger for a house, right? So you got maybe $50,000, $60,000 in bills coming at you just because somebody scammed you on mold growing on your grout in your tile, claiming that it's coming through your shower and you have to rip it out. That's not what the mold man does. The mold man comes in and explains to you what mold is, where does mold come from, and why it grew again. I'm going to explain that to you and keep your bathroom dry. And if you keep this bathroom dry after your last cleaning, you're going to be fine and no mold is going to keep growing. So I do that and I explain it, and I'll save families just in repairs alone easily $20,000, $30,000 on a bathroom.
The battle is, it's hard for people to believe when you hear all the bad stuff. They're going to have a real hard time with the little family in business who comes in here and says, you don't need that.
Right.
Why should I believe you?
Right.
It's the brand awareness. You know, you don't need the Louis Vuitton.
Right.
You don't need the Louis Vuitton. It's the same thing.
The clean trucks and all that up there with the suits on and the whole bit. That's the upseller guy. So because it's loud and a big brand does not mean it's correct. Right.
It means they know how to sell shit and make a lot of money off of it.
And that's why I send the links over to the customer by cell phone, and I go, I can prove everything I'm telling you right now. Anything I tell you, I can prove by a government link or a Department of Real Estate link, something with validity to it. The rules, the regulations. Therefore, I'm not lying to you. If you want me to lie, great. But I'm still not going to do it. I'm not going to rip at you. I walked away from $100,000 jobs.
Because they're not $100,000 jobs.
Because they weren't $100,000 jobs. They were quoted this. Yeah. I'm not going to rip out your drywall just because you think there's mold still in the back of your wall. And then I have to explain that too.
And I know y'all don't believe that, but that is the absolute truth. We hate that shit.
This is so bad in this industry that this is what they do to people.
We hate it.
Yep. And we don't like it. So stay tuned. We're going to be coming back we're almost done, aren't we? Yeah. We're going to be, so stay tuned. We'll be back. And we're back. The Moldman and Mrs. Moldy.
Yeah.
And
one day we're going to talk about that with
Yeah.
fists, and it's going to get
Fury.
fun, like the old
chasing
days.
Vincent with the knife.
We're too old. We have to tell that story, actually.
We'll tell some kid stories. We got some wingdingers. My God.
Just Gen X. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had lawn darts and click clacks. Look it up.
And we survived.
We're just going to recap. Remember, you can't catch air. You can't catch air. Nobody can do an air mold test for you.
Mm-mm.
In your Google searches, 'cause it's almost always Google, be careful because it's business.
Mhm.
And they pay to be first on the page.
Mm-hmm. They're going to make up their own information
Absolutely,
on their
they
website.
make it up.
They're going to claim it's bad in this. So you always got to go, like, you have to put it in this scenario. If you were standing in front of a judge, always go this far. I know it's not always going to go that far, but this is the point. The judge is going to say, where is your proof?
You need solid proof.
You need solid proof. One side's going to lie. The other one's going to have the proof.
And just because they have a big, expensive name, like, doesn't mean they know better
Mm-hmm.
or can do better or are going to tell you the truth at all.
Right.
And they're probably not. It means they want more money.
Mm-hmm. They're going to want more money. I don't want to get too much into that, but we have to understand that propaganda is a big way of doing things on the internet. Extra websites are developed by these companies to derail you from going to a government website, but to go to the industry standard process procedure of calling a mold sampler first. He comes out, repeats what you just read online because that was written by his certification company.
Mm-hmm.
And now he repeated it without even looking at it. Now you're terrified. Now it's the second time you heard it. Then he gives you another report, and now it's the third time you heard it. Now you're really solidified. By
They
the time the third,
they parrot
you're
information. They don't
Right.
know the information.
Right.
They're just
and we're talking in
repeating
general
it.
of remediation companies. I'm not just blaming one company.
Mm-mm.
They all do this because they all go to the same certification company. Okay? There is really no difference. You can go to 20 of them for 20 different estimates. One's going to be worse than the other, but they're not going to be more truthful than the other. Guaranteed.
Please don't get talked into it. We know
Mm-hmm.
you're afraid. You need to take a breath and say,
Read science.
is this real?
Read science, people, and you'll be okay. Thank you for listening to Mole Man, and we'll be back with our second episode, hopefully, or third episode.